guys, it's Kelly here, and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be using the Lovely Layers Nativity die set, and then for the sentiment I use the Christmas Blessing Stamps and Dies. So in the Honeybee group, the Facebook group, somebody had requested specifically a video for the nativity scene. So in the beginning here, I'm going to like super break it down, and then we'll get to the putting together of the things. So I chose to cut mine out of colored cardstock because I know that's how the majority of you guys would do it, where I like to color my die cuts, but not everybody does, and I totally understand that. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some things that I learned as I was going through and putting them together. And then we're going to talk about just how we can add just some simple tricks to make a die that has multiple layers a little bit more user-friendly, and we can be a little bit more efficient with it, and how to get the most like extra dimension without a whole lot of work. You know what I'm saying? All right, so I'm going through, I've pulled out, most of these are scraps, just I've pulled out of my box for my scraps. All different kinds of cardstock from all different kinds of companies. I just went based on color, and I also did not choose my own colors, by the way. I just went with what was on the layering guide to try to minimize the confusion for the pieces parts, because I do know that there are a lot of working parts. So just one little tip that I can give you guys when you're die cutting things that are like multiples like this, instead of having to run, like how big these pieces are, instead of having to run them through by themselves, like each individual cardstock, just trim them down. Just trim down that one, that little section after you tape them down. So that way, like you have a section that's big enough, but then just trim it down. And then here, like I'm cutting out, 5 or 6 things at one time, instead of having to do 1 sheet, 2 sheets, 3 sheets, 4 sheets. Now I'm 5 passes through. Instead, I'm just doing it one. I'm cutting out, 5 or 6 things, and then I'm able to move on to the next couple of things. I also like to, when I'm doing a card that has a lot of kind of moving pieces like this, I like to put all of my die cuts into a bin, and that way they keeps them all together, especially when we have like the little teeny tiny parts, like the gifts that the kings are carrying, or their crowns, little baby Jesus's face, like things like that. So once I had them all out, I did lay them all out, and there were some where I was like, maybe I cut those out of the wrong color. So, so you're not alone. Like it typically when you're, like when you're doing something for the first time, we don't necessarily know how all the pieces parts look, even though there is the layering guide. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to do each one of these, and I'm going to show the die that cuts out the pieces. Feel free when you are working on a card with the nativity scene to pause this at any point so that you can see what each one is. So here we have the base of the manger, and then the details. The details cut out the posts and the roof. So that's all included in one die. Then it also has what did I do with it? The hay, there it is, the hay, that it kind of sits on. And so I have that. From there, we're going to move on to the animals. There is a donkey and a sheep. So the donkey cuts out a front and a back of the donkey, and then its little like bit, and I think it's like a little dot for the eye. And then the sheep also has the like layering parts, but they're all kind of included. They're not separate. Here, these are all of the parts for the 3 kings. So this die right here cuts out for all of them, the sleeve, the hand, the beard, the face, and the crown. So you would cut 3 of those for 3 kings. I chose to cut them out of 3 different colors of cardstock, so that I would have different skin tones, but also that I would be able to use the beards. And then the one that's like the lightest skin tone, I'm just going to color that with a marker, which is another tip. We'll get to that in just a minute. Then they each have different bases, and then they each have different accessories. I did mix up their little, like their head coverings a little bit. And then this one here is the gifts. Those are the gifts. I cut those out of gold. I just want to make sure that like as we're going through, I'm not missing one of them. The star is by itself, just the star by itself. And I think that's all of it for the three kings. Here we have the bottom, that is Mary. So we have like the 3 layers of Mary. And then her face and her hand and the baby Jesus's hand or baby Jesus's face are all on that one piece. And then for what I'm looking, you can see me with my tweezers. What I'm looking for is like her little hand here. So there's those pieces. And then for the baby Jesus, there is the swaddling, a layer of the top of swaddling around, there, and then like another little triangle piece that you can layer up, but the face is with the die that cuts out the face of Mary. So now here, Joseph is the one that threw me off. So Joseph has his base and then his staff, and then there's these other layering pieces to kind of build up his outfit. And they all, like, just like the kings have that little stripe, which that threw me too, and we'll come to that when it comes to putting them together. But the one that got me, this one right here, this is Joseph's face and his beard. It looks like a little teapot, okay? I had no idea that this was his face and his beard. But when you turn it to the side, that little, like, top piece that looks like it's like the top of a teapot is actually his ear. So that is the one. I was like, what is this? I thought it was one of the gifts. I cut it out of gold 3 times, even though I was working with the layering guide. So I totally understand how maybe this might be a little bit challenging when you first look at it. But I will say, once I figured out, like once I did it one time and I figured out all of my parts, they did come together really easily. So this is building up the base for Mary. I have the darkest part of her outfit as my base, and then the skirt portion, and then her arm and head covering. On the base, you will put her face, and then also this is where we talk about like the little tips and tricks like to make your life less complicated. Since these things cut out, like you have multiple things that cut out of the same color, I always try to go for the lightest color, and then if I need to adjust the color, I can do it with a marker. You can do it with a colored pencil. So that way I'm limiting the amount of colored cardstock that is required, but also I'm eliminating a lot of die cutting of multiple things. Now, sometimes it's unavoidable, but for the most part, I am able to get away with doing it with just by changing the color with a marker. So we've layered up the baby Jesus. In doing this was a part of like the live. I was trying to put it together and show people in a live stream. I lost my little triangle for the bundle. I didn't notice it to be a big deal, but I'm just letting you know that I did not adhere that piece down. But if you are die cutting that portion of the swaddling and you see the triangle piece, that is what it's for. It's to add, there's actually an embossed area where you can put it. So you should be able to see where it goes. So again, I am just using that marker to adjust the color of the staff to help that kind of stand out. And I am going to start layering up Joseph's things. So for this is like the top part of like his robes, which is a different color. Look at me putting this extra layer next to it. And I am going to tell you, because I believe in being honest and transparent, even when it does not paint us in the best light. When I tell you that I did that for Joseph, I did that for the first king and the second king, and it was not until the third king did I learn. And every time I was putting them down, I noticed that they were just like a hair short. Like they were just a little short. And I was like, why are these so short? Like what? I went back to the layering guide. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Why aren't I seeing what I'm seeing? And here's the answer. The stripe part is supposed to go on top. It's supposed to go, it's not good. It doesn't go next to that die. It goes on top of that die as another layer because they're lovely layers, right? Right? That makes a lot of sense to everybody but me, apparently. So that's okay. So now here, I cut that base portion for his head covering out of the lighter blue so that it matches Mary's, and then the ivory. And I should have put the face down first. I didn't. And then again here, because we have cut the face out of a skin tone, then that also makes the beard a skin tone rather than recut it out of some darker colored cardstock marker to save the day. I just filled it in. You just want to make sure when you're using the markers that you are getting the sides. Otherwise, you will be able to see the original color through the side and it's not going to look seamless. So this is his beard and his hair. And then you can see how that ear looks like it's supposed to. It makes a lot more sense when it's put together. So for the donkey, you could absolutely cut like the back part and the front part out of like a lighter and a darker colored gray. I actually pulled that out to do that originally, but as we all know, I am all about the minimal amount of die cutting that I would possibly have to do. So I cut it all out of gray. I added some black to the little bit and to his eye, and then adhered that. I'm gonna I think I do it here. Like I'm chasing it around with the tweezers. I think I did go in here and do it. I'm not 100% positive. So you can color this donkey, as realistic as you would like. I am just trying to add super simple shading because honestly, I think that's what most people are willing to, like that's the most effort people are willing to put in, especially when you're working on a card that has this many pieces to glue. So keeping it super simple and minimizing the amount of die cutting by adding that darker color with a marker, I think is super smart. And look at now he's a totally different looking donkey. He looks multi-dimensional. For the sheep has the wool on its body, and then also has a little piece of wool that goes on his head. And so I didn't really add any not too much of anything to his actual, like the skin color of his body, but I did add a warm gray, just some dots along the embossed areas, just to add some dimension. For the manger, I am putting this together, and actually I did go back in with this one, I know I did, and add more additional shading. This part was the part that I did on the live. So here I'm just making sure everything is lined up, and then here's those roof pieces. I colored the section that would sit behind the roof with a marker. And this is I think this is an E55. So I just wanted to push that back a little bit so that the lighter roof would come forward. I am going to add, like I said, a little bit more shading to that, just a second color of shading once we're starting to put the card together. I would love to do this and, do it with my usual 4-color blend and really take the time to add in all of the details. Here, this is that one where, like I said, with the cutting out of the beards and the faces and everything, that I just cut it out of the lighter color and then I just swapped all of the beards. So, the mid skin tone went to the lighter skin, like that beard went to the lighter skin tone. The darker skin tone beard went to the mid skin tone face. And then that light one that we cut, I just colored it black. So that way we have a bunch of different ones. Now the ones with the kings, something to note that is different. With Mary and Joseph, you put the face right onto the base. With the 3 kings, you actually glue the beard to the face and then adhere it behind what would be what we would view as the base. And then the same thing with the hand where they're offering the gifts. Then we do the inside of their robes and their head covering I did mine the same color for the most part. I did all of the inside of the rose ivory, and then this one I left the like the head covering ivory as well. The other ones I am going to color the oh, here's that stripe. Here, see, watch. I'm going to glue it. Why, Kelly? Why did you think that that was right? I guess maybe because it was close, and then maybe I thought the arm would cover it. I don't know. It's not right. Don't do that. Don't do that. Put it on there. I did leave that part in, and we'll see it in closer to the end. But then anyway, we do the crown, and then we do the gift. And like I said, there's 3 different gifts in that die. So here I'm trying to get it to stick to the hand. And then the sleeve. I did it just, that darker teal color. So this king matches very similar colors to Mary, which I like because it makes it kind of cohesive, because he's the one who's bent down the lowest. So now here, this is after the live. That's as much as I got put together in an hour. And then I am going to continue putting these together and using that little marker trick. So now that we're far enough along into the video, I do want to talk about, I did a live today for Honeybee. If you missed that, I created a card with their freebie. So let's talk about their Black Friday sales. Thanksgiving's tomorrow, so everybody's Black Friday sales are rolling out. Theirs do start tomorrow, but honestly, I'm going to tell you they are going to start tonight, like Wednesday, 11:59 p.m., 12 a.m., the sales are on. So, and there's a couple of different sales for Honeybee, different things that they are doing. It's kind of, as I said earlier today, it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. It's like a choose your own sale type situation. And so, they do have different ones that they are offering. Thursday is starting with the 25% off site wide. So there is your entire 25% off your entire purchase. There's no exclusions, and there's no code. Everything will be applied right before you check out. And these are the types of sales that I totally love, because Honeybee doesn't just carry Honeybee things. Honeybee carries Spellbinder things. Honeybee carries, other types of papers or cardstocks or glitters, they are one of those like more one-stop shops. So if there's something that you've had your eye on, Olo markers, if there's something you've had your eye on and there's something that you want to try, now's the time, 25% off. So just something to note there. That is Thursday. Then Friday and Saturday, so both of them, is 30% off all Honeybee branded merchandise. So anything that is the Honeybee brand, that is when that sale is going to apply, and it's 30% off. Here is where we have to go back to the card. Here is where I realize that I should have been adhering that extra robe layer right on top of the other one. Really took me a long time to realize. Thankfully, I was able to salvage it, and I didn't have to redo all of them. You can also use a sanding eraser. I was able to use my tweezers to kind of get in there and get it, get the remnants of the glue and stuff off. An adhesive eraser would also be good to remove that. But anyway, see now here where I'm putting them and where they fit perfectly. Why I did not think of that, my mind is blown. I don't know. So that's Friday and Saturday. In addition, on Friday and Saturday, they have the freebie, which I did, like I said, I did the live with. It's adorable. It's this little flying reindeer with a little sentiment. It's so cute. It's one of the lovely layers dies. Maybe I'll share it over in the community, like the picture of it. Share it over in the community, or you could pop over to the live and actually just look at the thumbnail because it's in there of the replay. So that is for Friday, and Saturday is the freebie, and that's as long as supplies last. They will throw those in any orders that are over $100. Then comes Cyber Monday, and Cyber Monday is a buy two, get one free. So we buy two, we get one free on all Honeybee branded tools, paper pads, gems, pearl stickers. You know I love their gem and pearl stickers. That's no secret. And again, none of these are any code necessary. Everything will be applied at checkout. You also cannot combine any of these offers with any other sales, coupon codes, or honey coins. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your shopping. Even more fun, a little extra holiday cheer, they are doing $500 in gift cards giveaways. So every purchase that you make through Honeybee's website, Thursday through Monday, automatically enters you into a daily drawing for a $100 gift card to Honeybee Stamps, and they will choose one winner from each day's orders, and then they'll announce all 5 winners on December 2nd. So lots of fun stuff going on over there at the Honeybees. All right. Now, here, I did not feel like I felt like he was all the same color. And so in order to, like, everything's already together, right? So, like, we got to figure out a way to make it work. So again, I'm just going to color it. I'm going to color it with marker as his head covering as well as his second layer of robe. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to start adding some more dimension. These are really, really easy dimension that we're going to add even after everything is put together. Like, you don't have to do it before and chase all the die cuts around and everything else. You can add this shading afterward. And so here I'm going along the length of the roof, adding that shading. I'm also going to add it to the inset of that bar in the middle. And then I'm going to blend it out with the same color that you saw me use before. I'm also going to use that to add a little bit of shading underneath the roof, so that the roof does look lighter and then the other part does look darker. I'm going to add a shadow underneath the manger, like so where the hay is inside, it's going to be a little bit darker, and then where it's kind of sitting on the ground is a little bit darker. Oh, that hopped weird. But anyway, so the warm gray I'm using to add some shading to the swaddling on baby Jesus, as well as the head coverings on Mary and Joseph. This is the same warm gray I use for the sheep, the dots we did on the sheep. And then for this first king and for Mary, I'm using a blue-green. Again, I'm just the same rules that I tell you guys. What, a point where one object lays on top of the other, or a point where two objects meet. If there's one object laying on top of the other, I'm just going to add just a line of just a line of color. And if it looks like it's a little too harsh, like it was with the teal, I'm just going to find the next lightest color and go over it with that. Some of them needed 2 colors. Some of them only needed 1. And it was fine. We didn't need anything else to blend them out with. Same thing here with Joseph. Like, I'm going to add a little shading underneath his head covering, on his robes. I didn't need to blend those out. I was fine with it. For the other kings, I think I just used 1 red, and I did use 2 greens because the green that I chose was a little bit on the darker side, and then I blended that out with a lighter green. But even just like these little just swipes of color where the areas are next to each other, it's adding more dimension, and it's not creating a ton of work on a card that's already pretty labor intensive. I chose that YR24, which is the same one I used to shade the hay. I used that to add just a shadow underneath the gifts, like at the bottom of the gifts and underneath the crowns, as well as on the stars. I did speed up this background. Because we already had 2 teal-ish elements, like the Tiffany blue with Mary and the 1 king, I chose to go with a more teal sky. So I still use Salty Ocean as my first color because, I love blue. And then from there, I did add some more teal color. So I went with the Mermaid Lagoon and Uncharted Mariner out to the black soot instead of a more true blue, which if you watched the live today, that was more of a true blue combination. But I like the teal. I think it looks nice with the colors that are already in the card. And then I work out to my darkest color, back from my darkest color out to my lightest color, to get a really good blend, even though this is like sped up like to like 500 speed or something. So there is that. And then for the ground, I just did 2 browns. I kind of let there be just like a little bit of a smidge of a gap in between the 2, but honestly, I wasn't worried about it. Between the manger, the kings, the animals, like I didn't think you were going to be able to see much of it anyway. So then once that's done, of course, I can't leave anything alone without the shimmer and the shines. So I am going to do some spatters of just some clean water up top, to create like some stars. And then I am going to use Perfect Pearls in the color Perfect Pearl to do the same thing and create some more shine and stars in the sky. So we talked so much about all of the things, but that was kind of the point, right? I mean, the point of the video was to get more of an in-depth look of the nativity scene, which I really do love. I think it's so well done. A white acrylic for some really bright stars. And I just black the ground off with my hand because I don't want there to be any down there. These are strictly to make stars. For the sentiment, I just chose one of the browns. I actually think this is milk chocolate from Altenew. I just chose one of the browns there that I had already used in the card, and it matched the ground the best. So I treated it with my anti-static tool, and then I stamped it with the sentiment for "Unto us a child is born," and then it has the Isaiah 9:6 delineation for where you could find it in the Bible, and I heat set that with a white detail embossing powder, and then die cut that out with its coordinating die. I really, really like that set. It's got like a good mix of inside sentiments and like ones that you could put on the outside of the card. And then we're just going to get into the building. Because this has many layers of cardstock already kind of on top of each other, I didn't add any foam tape, but it is still a fairly dimensional card, which is, I think it's nice. So I hope that you guys are, gearing up for a Thanksgiving to enjoy. I also understand not everybody has, family or friends that they are able to spend the holiday with. I totally get that. Whatever the reason may be for that, I do plan to have a video up tomorrow. So if you are looking for a little bit of friendship or a little bit of a touchstone, to kind of help, pass the time on the holiday, I will, have that up. I apologize. I meant to get a video, like the premiere up yesterday, for like my regular honeybee, and it just didn't happen. And sometimes, I have been very overwhelmed lately. It's my own doing, but sometimes I need to learn that it's okay to be like, hey, enough's enough. You don't have to fit everything in. It's all right. So to finish off the card, I did go in and add a little bit of shadow underneath all of them, just so they look more more in the scene and less like they're kind of floating above it. And then I blended that out. These are the same browns that I already had used within the card, so I'm just repeating those elements. And then for, of course, I added some clear shimmer where the little starlight would hit. Of course, I added clear shimmer to the baby Jesus. He is the most important part of the card. And then I added some white gel pen highlights to a couple of different things. I also added them right over top of that shading. So my sheep was cut out of ivory, and then we added the darker shading with the warm gray, and then doing the white dots on top gives him a lot of great dimension. I used Stardust stickles on the star, and then also to do some more stars in the sky, some more glitters. So that is the whole card. I hope that's helpful when you're putting your nativity scene together. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.